These unsolved cases are especially mysterious because they contain all of the disturbing elements of a true crime story, and none of the answers. Still, investigators hope to one day see these cold cases solved and bring full closure to all involved. Number 5. A strange but true crime story occurred at the Biscayne Gardens Apartments in Miami-Dade, Florida, on September 4, 1979, when the body of a young woman was discovered nearby. Crime scene investigators initially hoped the unsolved case would be solved quickly. 43 years later, the mysterious case of the Miami-Dade County Jane Doe remains unsolved. The found remains were transported to the Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's office. The coroner noted that the woman was white, between 18 and 25, had either reddish or strawberry blonde hair, and eyes that were possibly once gray, green, or hazel. She was about 5'5" to 5'8" and 120 pounds. The exact cause of her demise was unknown, but crime scene investigators learned that it had occurred only hours ago. Another important piece of evidence were very distinct burn patterns on the back of her calves that detectives believed could have been caused by riding on the back of a motorbike. Despite all of these informational clues, investigators struggled to identify the young woman, and so a copy of her dental records was eventually distributed to expert dentists in Miami-Dade, who were mostly baffled but noted that Jane Doe had undergone dental treatment at some point in her life because she had several fillings. The Miami-Dade Police Department thought that the Jane Doe case would be solved if she was Philone S. Love, a woman who had been living in Hollywood, Florida. Years later, investigators would release a new statement that she was possibly a runaway from Ohio who went by the name of Tina or Sheba. Dental records and fingerprints are available as per the Doe Network, and anyone with information is asked to contact the Miami-Dade Police Department at 305-715-3300, quoting case number 258983Z. Number 4. 22-year-old Christy Jo Nichols and her husband Mark Lane Nichols resided in the small town of Gothenburg, Nebraska. On December 10, 1987, Christy, Mark, and their children visited the local mall for Christmas shopping. Afterwards, Christy and Mark dropped them off with a babysitter and headed out to a local bar where Christy was employed part-time. It was the beginning of a mysterious unsolved crime story that still needs answers. At around 12:30 p.m., Mark returned home and paid the babysitter, who would later tell crime investigators that she did not see or hear Christy come home with Mark that evening. She thought this was a little unusual because Christy had always been the one to pay her. If the events in Mark's story are true, the last time he saw Christy was around 2 a.m. when he climbed into bed. When his alarm went off just 5 hours later, she had vanished and he was alone. Before going to the police, Mark took his children to stay with relatives, then allegedly spent hours driving through Gothenburg to try to solve the mystery of what had happened to Christy Jo. At 1:37 p.m., Mark stopped looking and reported the strange mystery to police. In their investigation, criminal investigators discovered that Christy had seen a divorce lawyer multiple times. As they built a case, they discovered more documents showing at least 7 instances where Mark had been aggressive towards Christy, and one time had to visit the hospital. Despite all of this, investigators have never found enough evidence to conclusively link Mark to any potential crimes regarding her disappearance. Another clue would be added to the unsolved case in March of 1988, when a suitcase and purse belonging to Christy were found 30 miles from Gothenburg. Mark was also able to detail the entire contents of the suitcase, which made crime detectives suspicious. Christy Jo Nichols is still a missing person, and Mark Nichols remains a suspect in her ongoing case. Investigators hope that new evidence or witness testimony will bring an end to this puzzling unsolved mystery. Any information on case number 5501-1287 is to be reported to the Nebraska State Patrol at 402-479-4049. Number 3. In 1969, 22-year-old Carmen Halleck of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was a cocktail waitress who was excited about an appointment she had with a teacher at the local junior college for a job opportunity. In the details leading up to her unsolved case, Carmen's sister remembers speaking to her on the phone on December 18th, the day of the appointment, and of her mysterious disappearance. Her sister said she was going to be dressed in high heels and a black dress for the meeting. Over a week passed without any contact, which her family found quite unusual, and by Christmas Day, Carmen's family suspected a possible criminal event could explain her absence. Her family contacted the Fort Lauderdale Police Department and reported her as a missing person. During their investigation, the Fort Lauderdale Police Department learned that the teacher Carmen had been planning on meeting on December 18th had claimed to also work undercover for the US government. Days into the investigation, Carmen's car was found abandoned close to the junior college. Investigators were puzzled by the lack of keys, license, and registration in the car. They wondered if she had abandoned the car and taken these items with her, or if the criminal responsible had taken them. Carmen's apartment was undisturbed, and the only things missing were the shoes and dress that she had told her sister she was going to wear. There was no sign of a struggle, and yet crime scene investigators noted that Carmen's bathtub was full of water. Despite all of this information and possible evidence, the unsolved case went cold for years until 1973, when the notorious serial killer Gerard Schaefer was arrested. While investigating his case, detectives found him to be in possession of Carmen's gold-filled teeth and a shamrock pin that had once belonged to her. However, as far as proving the case was concerned, simply having some of her belongings was not enough evidence for a criminal conviction. To this day, her case officially remains unsolved. There are many unanswered questions in Carmen's case that investigators hope advancements in forensic technologies can answer. Carmen Marie Halleck is described as a white female with brown hair, brown eyes, and 90 to 120 pounds. Anyone with information is asked to contact Detective Jennifer St. Jean of the Fort Lauderdale Police Department at 954-764-4357. Number 2. In 2003, 25-year-old Jennifer worked as a dancer at Shotgun Willie's in Denver, Colorado. On February 17th, she unexpectedly disappeared in the 8500 block of Pena Boulevard near the Denver International Airport. Her mysterious and unsolved case continues to baffle FBI crime experts to this day. Jennifer's missing car was found abandoned after spending days in a parking lot close to the airport, which triggered an investigation much later after police were certain that she could not be accounted for by friends or family. At this point, detectives called in the help of the FBI. During the FBI investigation, special agents learned Jennifer did not board a flight. Investigators were able to find a final phone call made to Stephen Ennis, her boyfriend, who was in prison on federal charges and waiting for trial. When interviewed about the mysterious phone call, Stephen said that she had told him she loved him and would be back in 3 days. It's believed that Jennifer was due to be a witness in Stephen's trial. However, investigators have never uncovered any evidence to connect him to her strange and mysterious disappearance. Scott Kimball, an associate of Jennifer's and former cellmate of Stephen, is also a possible criminal suspect in this case, and he's currently serving a 70-year sentence for an unrelated crime. During FBI interrogations, Scott's story has changed several times. He has confessed to being responsible, but there's simply no conclusive evidence to connect him to the crime. Jennifer remains a missing person to this day, and her parents are offering a $20,000 reward for any information that leads to her case being solved. Jennifer Markham is described as a white female with brown hair, blue eyes, 5'6" and 115 pounds. Jennifer has breast implants with serial numbers, along with pierced ears and an IUD. Anyone with information to help get this mystery solved is asked to contact special agents at the FBI's Denver field office at 303-629-7171. quoting case number DN61415. Number 1. In May of 1995, the lives of the Williams family would be forever changed in what has become one of the scariest true crime mysteries of all time. 29-year-old Devin Williams lived in Americus, Kansas with his wife and 3 children. He had recently taken a trucking job with the Flint Hill Transportation Company, hauling goods across state lines. On May 23rd, Devin left Kansas with cargo from Missouri. He had other stops planned at California and Arizona. On May 27th, Devin reached California as planned, but something deep inside of Devin had changed. He reported that he was unable to sleep, and with this story, his strange mystery began. 5 days later, Devin was seen speeding through the Tonto National Forest in Arizona, narrowly missing campers and hikers. Those who watched the 10-ton truck speed through the forest said that Devin had a blank look on his face. Another witness reported that Devin had randomly told them, quote, "They made me do it. No, you can't help me out. I'll never get out of here. I'm going to jail." 2 days later, on May 29th, Devin was spotted for what would be the last time. Lynn and Jack Yarrington would later tell crime investigators that they saw Devin on the Forest Service Road 321 on his knees, staring at a tree and mumbling to himself. Concerned, the couple approached Devin and asked if they could help him in any way. Devin's response was that he had to light a grill. He said this as he struck a $20 bill against a rock as if it were a match. As Devin had refused their help, the couple continued with their hike, and this was the last time that Devin Williams was ever seen or heard from. As the strange but true story goes, Devin failed to make his final stop in Kansas City, Missouri. His employer notified his wife and the police, who were unable to find the missing person after a wide-scale search of the national park. It wasn't until 1997 that investigators got a huge break in the case, when cranial remains were found just off the road where Devin had last been seen. Forensic investigators confirmed that it belonged to Devin Williams. However, the circumstances of his passing remain a complete mystery to investigators. There are hundreds of theories in his case, and investigators are unsure whether Devin met with foul play. Devin's family were able to lay him to rest and gain some closure, but years later, the specifics of his mysterious case are far from solved. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.